The board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderman Cone, Alderman Narayan, Alderman Balmer, Alderwoman Velasquez, Alderwoman Sanier, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Browning, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, here. Alderwoman Keys,
present.
Alderwoman Tyus, Alderwoman Boyd, Alderman Aldridge.
Present.
Thank you. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Present.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Sanier. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Tyus. 11 present. You have quorum.
A quorum being present, we will dispense with line item 3 and 4. Any introduction of honored guests? Any introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Can you tell how excited I am about my honored guest this morning? Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. I have a couple of honored guests. First, I would like to have my niece, who is in town, homegirl, but in town from LA, Jonica Blue Booth. And she was here supporting her little brother, Jonathan Booth, at a premiere of The Underdogs in the 9th Ward last night at the Armour Theater. Great experience. The Underdogs is a funny movie, so make sure you tap into it at Amazon Prime. Also, as my honored guest, I would like to have my godmother, Miss Patricia Bowers, and she is the first vice president of the Missouri Silver Hair Legislature. So happy birthday, godmommy. I love you. I'm so glad to have you back in my life. Enjoy your day.
Any introduction of honored guests? Any further introduction of honored guests? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Feels so good to be back in the chambers. As my honored guest, I want to have my good friend and the sheriff of the city of St. Louis, Mr. Vernon Betts, resident of the 14th Ward, is present today. Thank you.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 11th.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. My honored guests today are all of the men and women of Heritage House. As you all may know, we're going through a little something right now, but we're not alone. We're going through it together. Additionally, I'd just like to have as additional honored guests all of the staff at all of the various agencies, which are really too many to name, and surely I would forget someone. But we have great boots on the ground, working around the clock, working way late into the night to see that people are as comfortable as they can be. So thank you all for your patience.
Alderwoman from the 13th.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to have my honored guest, AFT 420. They did a session the other night in regards to tax, TIF and tax abatement, and it was very informative and a lot of things we need to look at to ensure that we're on point in regards to our city. So I want to recognize Ray Cumming, the president of AFT 420.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Any further introduction of honored guests? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the approval of the minutes from Friday, January 19th, 2024.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we approve the minutes from Friday, January 19th, 2024.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th, that we approve the minutes from Friday, January 19th, 2024. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion carries. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in A, B, and C of the agenda and has been placed in the Google Drive for your review. Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for appointment to the Clean Energy Development Board: the reappointment of Neil Richardson and the appointment of Ian Van Dam. I respectfully request your approval of this appointment. Sincerely, to Sharborough O. Jones, Mayor.
Alderman from the 5th, you are recognized on Mayor Jones' appointments to the Clean Energy Development Board.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I humbly request that we approve the mayor's appointments.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 5th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we approve the mayor's appointments to the Clean Energy Development Board. Is there any discussion? Alderwoman from the 12th. Alderwoman, you need to turn on your mic.
The button on your microphone.
Thank you. Madam President, members of the board, I rise in objection and we send the appointment to committee.
Are you looking to inquire of the Alderman from the 5th about whether he's ready?
If there was any discussion. So if you want me to, I will ask for inquiry if he's willing to send them. I thought we had made an establishment about anything that was a citywide board, not just a little board within the ward, that we would send them to committee. So if you want that to be an inquiry, I would ask if the Alderman from the 5th would yield to inquiry.
Would the Alderman from the 5th yield to questioning from the Alderwoman from the 12th?
It's the moment I live for.
Alderman, is the Clean Energy Development Board something within your ward?
It is not. As chairman of legislation, this goes through me as far as the appointments.
It goes through you. You appoint them, or is it just comes to your committee?
It comes as chairman of the committee. It runs through my.
They've been before your committee already?
They have not.
So would you be willing to bring them? In fact,
I have no problem with that whatsoever.
my friends, and I still want them to go to committee.
That's Madam President. I have no problem with this going to committee.
Okay. Then would you withdraw your motion to approve the appointments to the Clean Energy Development Board and make a new motion to send to committee?
Certainly. I will withdraw my motion. Oh, certainly. I believe there's a second that has to be withdrawn first. Alderman from the 3rd had a second.
Okay. Alderman from the 3rd is removed his second.
Okay. If that, I'll remove my first, and I will move that we take this to the somebody else's committee. No, we'll take it to my committee. There's a problem with it. There's a very bad echo in here. Hello. The new sound system needs some work because it's like a delay out here when you're talking. But yes, I will move that we take these mayor's appointments to committee.
To the Legislation and Rules Committee?
If necessary, yes.
Okay. It has been moved by the Alderman from the 5th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we send the mayor's appointments to the Clean Energy Development Board to the Legislation and Rules Committee. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for appointment to the St. Louis Port Authority: the reappointment of Matthew McBride, the reappointment of William Kay, the reappointment of John Miller, the reappointment of Tanya Mason. I respectfully request your approval of this appointment. Sincerely, to Sharborough O. Jones, Mayor.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on Mayor Jones' appointments to the St. Louis Port Authority.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we move the reappointments to the St. Louis Port Authority to be heard in the HUD's committee.
There is second.
Second.
There seems to be some discussion.
Yeah, I guess since the road was in development, we assumed that it would be okay for it to go for development, but what we will do is send them to Transportation Committee.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I withdraw that motion.
Okay, the second has been withdrawn by the alderman from the 14th. The first has been withdrawn from the alderwoman from the 10th.
He's saying the clean, okay.
Yeah. All right, you are now recognized.
Withdraw that motion. Madam President and members of the board, I move that we move the reappointments to the Transportation Committee.
Is there a second? It's been moved by the alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the alderman from the 4th, that we send the mayor's appointments to the St. Louis Port Authority to the Transportation and Commerce Committee. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
That's the extent of report of city officials.
Board bill, does anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? Does anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off any of our informal calendars? Alderwoman from the 12th?
I don't. I was waiting to ask a question about this. Are we reverberating because we have too many mics on? Turning our mics off after we speak. My question.
Yes, if you could, when you're done speaking, please turn your mics off to cut down on surround sound. All right, I think that should make it a little bit better. Anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? Anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? Seeing none, we can dispense with line items 9, 10, and 11. First reading of board bills.
Board Bill 204, sponsored by Alderwoman Boyd and President Green, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Adjustment and Apportionment authorizing and directing the mayor and the comptroller of the City of St. Louis on behalf of the city to enter into and execute an agreement or agreements with the Missouri Department of Transportation for the receipt of MoDOT Highway Safety Grant funding, appropriating the sum of $60,000, which the city has been awarded as MoDOT Highway Safety Grant for the purpose of implementing a pilot program for driver's education for low-income students enrolled in St. Louis City Public Schools, containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 205, sponsored by Alderwoman Keys, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Adjustment and Apportionment, authorizing the Director of the Department of Human Services on behalf of the City of St. Louis to accept a grant award for the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services in the amount of $305,000 to increase meal production capacity and infrastructure for the nutrition program, appropriating said funds and authorizing the Director of the Department of Human Services to expend such funds as permitted by the grant agreement containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 206, sponsored by Alderwoman Keys, an ordinance approving a petition to establish the 2601 Market Community Improvement District, establishing the 2601 Market Community Improvement District as a political subdivision of the state of Missouri, approving the appointment of the initial board of directors containing a severability and emergency clause. Board Bill 207, sponsored by Alderman Cone, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Adjustment and Apportionment, authorizing, directing the issuance, establishment of terms, negotiated sale for airport revenue bonds not to exceed $320 million, containing a severability and emergency clause. That's the extent of first reading of board bills.
Reference to committee of board bills.
To Public Infrastructure, Board Bill 204. To Health and Human Development, Board Bill 205. The HUDs, Board Bill 206. And to Transportation and Commerce, Board Bill 207.
Second reading and report of standing committees.
The following board bills were reported out of Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee with the due pass recommendation. Board Bill 191 as amended, sponsored by Alderman Cone, pursuant to ordinance number 70333 as amended by ordinance number 71394, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on various blocks in the First Ward. I'm sorry, that should be Third Ward. Board Bill 202, sponsored by Alderman Cone, Pursuant to ordinance number 70333 as amended by ordinance number 71394, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on various blocks in the 3rd Ward. The following board bill was reported out of Public Safety with the due pass recommendation. Board Bill 200, sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard and co-sponsored by the following: Narayan, Velazquez, Sanye, Keys, and Aldridge. An ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment authorizing the Department of Public Safety to accept the 2023 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Award up to $456,683 from the U.S. Department of Justice, appropriating such funds to the Department of Public Safety, authorizing the expenditure of such funds to the extent received, authorizing contracts and other documents to expend such funds to the extent received, contained in the emergency clause. That's the extent of second reading. Report of standing committees.
Report of special committees.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 15, board bills for perfection consent.
Board Bill 189, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets pursuant to ordinance number 70333 as amended by ordinance number 71394 to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on the 3800 block of Wisconsin, 1220 block of Missouri Avenue, 2100 block of Missouri Avenue, 2400 block of Salina, 2700 block of Salina, 2200 block of Lynch, 1800 block of Rucker, 1040 block of Lafayette, 2200 block of Wyoming, and the 4700 block of Nebraska Avenue. Board Bill 193, sponsored by Alderwoman Boyd, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to pursuant to ordinance number 70333 as amended by ordinance number 71394 to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on the 57 and 5800 blocks of Woodland. Board Bill 194, sponsored by Alderwoman Boyd, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets pursuant to ordinance number 70333 as amended by ordinance number 71394 to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic at various locations on Gladys Avenue between the intersection of Gladys Avenue and Goodfellow Boulevard and Gladys Avenue and Riverview Boulevard. That's the extent of board bills for a perfection consent calendar.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the board for perfection consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we adopt the board bills for perfection consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we adopt the board perfection consent calendar. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Board bills for perfection.
Board Bill 129, sponsored by Alderman Aldridge, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated August 23rd, 2023 for the 400 South 14th Street area.
Alderman from the 14th, you are recognized on the perfection of Board Bill 129.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move to perfect Board Bill 129.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th, that we perfect Board Bill number 129. Alderman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Board Bill 129 is a redevelopment bill for 400 South 14th Street. If we all step outside, it's this Oyo Hotel that sits right across the street from the Enterprise Center, as well as the can't think of the name right now, where all the buses go, and can't think of it right now. But Metro, but there's a different name for it. But anywho, it's a 10-year tax abatement at 75%. The benefit of this tax abatement for this location is really big. So this developer, this isn't the first time this developer has received a tax incentive from this board. The developer has done 3 other projects in the city of St. Louis. In this location, what's unique about this development and the hotel, it is not just actually a hotel. So currently there's 79 condo owners that have been living in this building for over a decade. With the benefit of this development kind of getting redeveloped, right now the building has issues when it comes to tuck pointing. The hotel is basically pretty inoperable. The 5th and 6th floor does not operate at the moment. And the individuals that live in this hotel struggle with security, they struggle with safety, and they have also been coming to the hearings and pleading that we give this tax abatement so that this hotel can be upgraded so that they could pay more property taxes, which most people don't ask to pay more property taxes. I know I don't want to, but they're invested in this building. And with this building kind of coming back on the roads with the development, it would not just benefit the hotel element of it, but it also benefit the residents that stay there. This bill has been heard in committee 3 times. So I've done my due diligence with trying to ensure that all parties were heard and at the table. There has been a large conversation about the unionization element of the development that is happening. Like I say, after the 3 hearings I was heard, the developer has made it very clear he will build union. This Board of Aldermen passed the ordinance before my time on prevailing wages. He has 2 other projects that had to go through actual making sure that he paid his prevailing wage. At the last hearing, somebody from SLDC office said yes, he was in compliance for the other 2 developments, which he will have to be in compliance before he actually get the tax incentive for this project as well. I know there's been, like I say, a lot of conversations, mainly more on the back end of when this development goes through far as the workers. Right now, there are currently 15 workers that are at the hotel that are not union right now, that haven't been approached, that hasn't been asked to unionize. If this project goes into place, it would bring over 120 workers to the city of St. Louis that would be paying earnings taxes and others. I know a lot of our union friends are asking that the developer sign a neutrality clause. Over the last 4 to 5 months, I have been in conversations with the developer and representatives from Unite Here who are in the balcony to make sure that those conversations happen. Per state statute and at the advice of our city councilor, I shouldn't have been in conversations of them trying to figure out the neutrality clause. Also, for as the board, we legally can't be in the middle of negotiations when it comes to unions and developers. I know they haven't signed or come to agreement on neutrality, but the developer has stated multiple times at the hearing that he will not retaliate against workers. He will not retaliate if workers want to unionize. He will not stand in the way of the union coming into the location if they would like to unionize the workers. Again, I think this is a huge benefit, not just for the city of St. Louis, but I think about, again, the existing residents that currently stay in this building that has been staying there for a long time, that is begging and asking for a facelift of this hotel so that they can feel safe, so that they can live in a condition that is not deplorable. As I visited this hotel 2 times now, I think also the benefit of us upgrading this hotel with sitting on budget, we learned that we're sitting on budget. We learned this year that one tax that was up was hotel taxes. So currently, right now, the rooms at this hotel go for about $50 to $60 a night. As one of the residents said during the committee hearing, which I won't say on the floor because it's an inappropriate word, but basically it is a hotel where people are going into this hotel doing buying rooms and doing sexual activity in the hotel, to say the least. And hopefully, once this is renovated, the rooms will go up from $60 to $120, which would again be a benefit to the sales tax and the hotel tax that the city operate. I appreciate the HUD's committee. Like I said, we had 3 hearings on it, and y'all grilled me and grilled the developer because I understand this was a very important conversation. It was also a little sensitive as well, understanding the residents that stay there and also trying to ensure we be good allies to our union brothers and sisters. But I can say from the HUD's end and from my end as a bill sponsor, from what we actually can do at the Board of Aldermen with not getting into conversations when it comes to negotiating with labor organizations and developers is we done our due diligence. We've asked the hard questions. We've looked at the project. We held the developer feet to the fire and to ensure that if he gets this tax incentive, one, that he would provide prevailing wages. He is going to build union when it comes to construction, electricians, and everything on the building end. SLDC testified and said they will have to, they will be following the project to make sure that the developer is in compliance when it comes to prevailing wage before he even can get the tax incentives. He have to actually dot all his I's and cross his T's after it's built, and if he did so, then he would get the tax incentive on the back end. Again, I want to thank the HUD's committee. It came out 5-0. I want to thank everybody that's been involved in this process. As somebody had said to me, this was automatic courtesy. I could tell you after 3 hearings and 4 months of conversations on this is definitely not automatic courtesy, and I appreciate all my colleagues who have asked me questions on this. I appreciate everybody who is trying to figure out how do we support the development of the hotel as well as support workers. But it is very clear on my end that from our city councilor and state statute that we can't really get into the conversations of neutrality, even though the developer has already stated twice that he will be neutral, he won't retaliate, and he will allow workers, if they would like to unionize. And with that, Madam President, I am open for questions.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the Alderman from the 14th would yield.
The Alderman from the 14th yield to questioning from the Alderwoman from the 12th.
Yes, ma'am. All right,
Alderwoman,
yes.
you may proceed.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say I got a email, I guess yesterday, from Jake Hummel that I found very inappropriate.
I second that. I'm sorry.
I am going to reply to him. I am a union person for 67 years, all of my life. My parents, everybody's in union. I am pro-union. The union sometimes is not pro-black.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and when I was the chair of public safety, I took them to the task over and over about that. And they don't have any presence in North St. Louis at all. None of their offices or anything like that. And all of that. Still, unions do a lot of good work. I was able to get a lot of things done and have a good living from parents who were sharecroppers because of unions and the rights that we had from them. However, the letter that Mr. Hummel sent to me was threatening and should not have been sent. He should have stopped with saying, this is why I think that you should not vote for it. This is why I think that it's a bad idea. But when you include in there that you're going to be making your endorsements and watching me, that makes me want to do the opposite of what you say. And that's with my biggest supporters. I was reading an article because I've been digging through all of my stuff of when Vervis Jones, who was one of my biggest supporters when I was here, came down and said, that's what I need. And then when he finished, I said, well, you are threatening me. So I ended up voting present. So I would tell you, Mr. Hummel, you maybe should look at your letter and retract it, because that is not an appropriate thing to send to the Board of Aldermen members saying that you're going to decide about how we vote and who you're going to endorse. A lot of the union didn't endorse me. I can win without them. I'm still pro-union. So I just wanted to start out with that to say it was inappropriate and threatening. I want to ask you about the neutrality agreement. So you talked with the city councilor, and they're saying we shouldn't get in it. But can you tell me why the developer hasn't signed it, or the hotel developer hasn't signed a neutrality agreement with the labor unions? I can understand them saying, we want you to vote no because we haven't come to an agreement or something like that. Is there a reason why they haven't come to an agreement? Do you know?
First, Alderwoman, if I could also address...
Alderwoman.
Alderwoman?
Thank you.
Yeah, Alderwoman of the 12th, from the 1st, and many the 20th, and
right.
all the wards that since you've been down here. I do echo also. I received that email last night at 9 o'clock. Luckily, I was asleep because I would have probably responded back in the night best way. You know, the email, which I know members of the HUD's committee has been receiving letters constantly saying vote no on this because neutrality. Not based on the development, but a neutrality. But then, like you say in that second paragraph, what kind of rubbed me the wrong way, where it said, now we're starting a process. In the middle of session, in the middle of the game, we starting a process, and we'll be watching your vote for future endorsements. I hope they also watch all the resolutions that we passed down here saying we support unions, from SEIU to so many others that we recently have passed. I am super pro union as well. As you know, I was with the Fight for 15 low-wage workers that was out on strike. I tried to organize my shop. I got fired for organizing. I worked for SEIU, so very strong union as well. And I found the letter to be a little threatening too, is a no, and we kind of watching the endorsement of how you vote on this. To get to your question on the neutrality part of why the developer didn't sign the neutrality clause, the developer has stated during the HUD's hearing that he won't retaliate, he won't get in the way of workers trying to unionize. However, he don't feel by him signing a neutrality clause at the moment making decisions for workers, no workers that aren't there. There's only 15 workers there now, and they're not unionized or haven't been attempted to be unionized. If he upgrade this building, it'll be 100 some workers that will potentially be there. And he's wrote a letter, which I can provide that to the whole board. I know the HUDs have it. He's wrote a letter. He sent out an oath multiple times. I won't retaliate. I'm not in a space at the moment to sign a neutrality clause, which I believe, sometimes when you have negotiations between unions and developers or whoever, sometimes that take months. They asking us to do something within one hearing, force the developer to do that. So he's not anti-union. He's going to build union. But he said he's just not in a place right now. And they gotten close. Like I say, the representative who's in the gallery from Unite here, they got close. But I think that's ongoing negotiations between the developer and the union to figure out how they can get to that neutrality clause, not based off a vote if he do or don't. But he's stated very clearly he will not retaliate. And I've said, if he do not allow them to unionize or stand in the way, I'll be the first one standing on the picket line like I stand on many other picket lines. But he wants to continue to negotiate with the union to figure out what that looks like and not jump into something that he's not aware of, since this is kind of the first time out of the other developments it's never been brought up.
So I'm probably the only one here that was here when they did tax abatement before. So when we did this building, I was the 20th Ward Alderperson then.
Yes, ma'am.
So is it the same developer, or it is a different developer? As I thought I read, that somebody else is buying the hotel. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. It's the same. It's a different developer. And I believe the last time when the tax abatement was done on condo owners. And that tax abatement has expired. This is on the hotel, which will not go to the condo owners at all. So this is a new developer who would be the developer and will be the actual hotel owner operator. Midas is the hotel owner and operator. Like I say, he has 3 other projects that he's done here in the city of St. Louis. And I know he has a future one coming in the 11th Ward at Jefferson and Market.
Okay, and so he would be the developer of the entire project or just the hotel? Would the condos be included in this redevelopment? No, ma'am. So it would just be the building. So as I've toured the building, it needs some tuck pointing. He wants to upgrade the mural on all sides of the hotel. It's a beautiful mural. If you drive down 40, you can see it. Now that we got the Ferris wheel, maybe sometimes that blocks it, but he's going to upgrade the mural. The rooms are outdated. The furniture in there needs to be to the 21st century, to say. The whole 5th floor is inoperable. The last developer took the keypads off the doors, took the furniture from those floors, moved it to another floor. So it is just on the building and the actual inside of the hotel. The condo floors are the 9th floor to the 12th, and they will not be part of that development. It is just the hotel entity of the location that would begin developed, the inside and outside. And so you just got to a point that we made back 20-something years ago. When is enough tax abatement for downtown, and how many of these projects do we get to a point where now we're back doing it again? So since I've been here long enough, I know about the projects that we're doing again. And so we were sold, oh, we're going to do all of this because this is going to make downtown be wonderful and we will never come back again. But here we stand today doing tax abatement. And I take that this means it will be tax abatement that involves the St. Louis Public Schools, not just the city's money. Is that correct?
So I actually, about a week ago, I was watching on YouTube your conversation with Alderman Mike Gross when he did the development that was in somebody else's ward, and I had a feeling you was going to bring that up about downtown. So I was already ready for it.
Good.
But
then that'll tell you that I am consistent.
Absolutely. I think what I say what's unique about this project, though, since it will be a tax abatement, since there's 79 residents in the building, once the abatement is done, they property taxes will then go up, which property taxes go to our public schools as well. So this one is a unique project because there are current residents in there. So it won't fully take away from public schools because it will also be going into public schools with the condo owners who will be paying money. And it's not a TIF, but it's, tax abatement.
All the projects that come before us are the unique reasons why we have to do it. For the last 32 years, there was a reason we have to redo it. And when the Cardinals ran out of tax abatement where their current stadium was, they moved across the street where they could get that again. There's always loopholes. And I'm saying I thought that this group of progressives would be much harder on people about these tax abatements, which, again, I don't have so much problems. And I've always made my position clear about how do we, the St. Louis City, give tax abatements to places again and again and again. And I'm careful. I'm very careful about tax abatement and TIF. I mean, I almost lost my position fighting the first black mayor because I wouldn't give TIF a snook. So I don't believe in just handing over the money, especially when we talk about that we want our public schools to be so strong. So I won't be here the next 30 years, I promise you. Okay, so who will be here to say, hey, we did this thing twice, and now here we're coming again. There's always going to be somebody say, well, that's, they didn't take care of it, they didn't do this. So I'm just telling you this is what happens, okay? And if it's long enough and far enough out, then people don't know because you haven't been here. So that's just my concern. 10 years is not so much to me. I wasn't going to vote against it. Actually, Mr. Hummel raised my awareness of more than what he should have. At the most, I usually will vote present if it's something like a TIF or something like that. I didn't think that it should be voted against. But when would this project get started?
So, like I said, I filed the bill back in October. He wanted to start immediately, so the plan was to start in January. But since we had 3 hearings on it, because again, it was being stalled not based on the conversations we have as far as the project, but more of the neutrality part of it. So once the board, if the board, I should say, passed this and the mayor signed it, he planned to start immediately. He wanted to start on it in January, but it's been held up for months for the right reason. A lot of questions asked. Part of me feels like, again, it wasn't based on the actual project. It was being based on a vote for neutrality, which we can't do at the board, which is kind of where the email came from Mr. Hummel, like it's a no based on the neutrality, but not the actual project. So as soon as we pass this on our end, he plans to start right away. He's already pushed back his finance deadlines because we had to wait to see what the Board of Aldermen does. And to also echo something you said when it comes to tax abatements and being progressive, this piece of legislation I didn't say yes to easily. Again, if it wasn't for the residents that currently stay there, it probably would have been, they would have had to try to figure out somebody else to carry it. But just seeing the condition of the current hotel and the conditions, how deplorable the building is, and the people that actually stay there is me leaning more to why I wanted to support this development that's coming.
So I want to say you should get a map of what's been tax abated in Tift. I promise you it's not North St. Louis, and it's not a lot of South St. Louis. It's been the central quarter and downtown. I have always encouraged and supported that we should limit how much tax abatement should be able to go to the central quarter and downtown, and be it 10 or 15%, you all get that 10 or 15%, and that's all that's available, because it is too much over 30 years. And people will always say it's just this one little project, and I understand you're the alderperson for the people down there, but it's really unfair to the school systems that we profess to love so much. And I'm a product of public schools, not in college, but when I was in high school, kindergarten through 12th grade. I'm a product of public schools.
Yes, ma'am.
Very, very fortunate to have had a good public education. And we undercut our public education with these things. And we really need to take a bigger picture, step back from, but this is my project, and look at how much has been down there, what has been done in the last 30 years. And you would not do anything hardly in downtown, and you should give them a total of 10 or 15%. When you use that up, the rest of it should be going to places, because the whole thing was put in place to try to encourage development where there wasn't development. And what it's doing is going to development that's there, and now we're doing on a second and a third projects in the same spot. I will say, in defense of Mr. Jake Hummel, is that he didn't want us necessarily to be part of the neutrality. He was just saying, I want to flex my muscles and show you that I got people down at the Board of Aldermen that will withhold their vote. And unions have been doing this, and other people have been doing this for years. If he hadn't put that stuff in there about, I'm going to be watching you, I might have been one of those people. But just because you're going to be watching me, you've been watching me already, okay? That's what they do, whether they tell you or not, and that's okay. But it's not okay to put it in writing to the board right before. I don't care about you changing the method that you do. I care about the threat that you made, or at least implied threat. I don't have any further. Oh, I had another question. Why? So it's only 15 employees?
Yes, ma'am.
Were they working for the hotel that was previously there? Were they working for the people who live in the building?
They only work for the hotel. Used to be more employees there, but as the hotel continued to decline, more employees have left. The developer has said, once they start this development, the workers will have to leave because they have to do the whole renovation. But again, he has 3 hotels here in the city of St. Louis. He's from St. Louis, that he's going to move those workers to his other hotels until that hotel come back online.
And who is the developer?
It is Midas, and the owner is David. I do not remember his Robert. David Robert. Midas is the development company, though.
And all his taxes are paid and everything?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I still have a bill on the informal committee, because the Alderman from the 7th let that bill out, but I promised her I would not move it until they paid their bills, because that is important that you pay your taxes just like everyone else.
And I know she's working on legislation, as she called, ta-da, that will...
Oh, that. And I agree with that. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Alderwoman from the 13th.
As usual, my colleague pretty much asked questions that I was going to ask. She's very detailed. And I did speak to the sponsor earlier, and I need people to understand it's not the project itself, it's how we're doing business. And so I agree with the Alderwoman from the 12th. We're continuously doing business as we've done before. And I thought with the new board, we were going to change that. I attended a meeting for local AFT 420, and they were talking about TIF and tax credits and tax abatement. And so I agree with them because, again, as the Alderman from the 12th kept saying, the St. Louis Public Schools are the one that's losing in these deals. But I think people need to pay attention because, again, people have campaigned on the backs of North St. Louis and committed to ensuring that we would have development coming in our community. And I want to know how many developments have come to the 12th and 13th ward to encourage these tax tips and abatements. I think everybody here understands that this tax abatement and the TIF was created on the backs of North St. Louis because they used our numbers and our stats to say this is why we need to do it. But guess what? We never got it. I appreciate the sponsor because he has done his diligence. He did a lot of work to make sure people were heard, and he did his homework. I did respond, you all did, and I responded to Jake Humble and told him I was appalled that he was that disrespectful to come to me at the 11th hour and other people what we need to be doing. So thank you, Alderman Rashid Aldridge, for pushing this and making sure people were educated and empowered in regards to this. But I just need people to pay attention to what we're doing to make sure we're not repeating history all over again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. The Alderman from the 14th and I have discussed this pretty extensively over the last several weeks, and I think he'd be the first to say that I was in opposition of this well before any email came to me regarding it. I just want to remind this body that no developer is entitled to incentives. For so long, it seemed like if you want to redevelop a building, particularly downtown or in the central corridor, you just get these incentives. We as a city incentivized this building 20-something years ago. And if we're going to give 10-year incentives every 20 years, then we can't, as a body, sit and wonder why SLPS is struggling, why we don't have the funds to do things. This is why we're engaging in developer welfare. And I just reject the notion that when we are taking money away from our community and away from SLPS, that we can't make sure that any project is right for our community, and that's the community as a whole. And we can make sure these developers are doing what's right, and we can say no, we don't want to incentivize this project for whatever reason we feel like. No one's entitled to this. And the Alderman from the 14th said that if this developer was to engage in anti-union activity moving forward, he'd be the first one out there on the picket line. And so I just want to ask I'd like to inquire one question from the Alderman from the 14th.
Would the Alderman from the 14th yield to questioning from the Alderman from the 4th?
Yes.
Alderman, you may proceed.
Thank you. Alderman, so if this developer does engage in anti-union activity moving forward when it comes to any organization with the hotel workers or anyone who's responsible for maintenance on this is a 10-year abatement. Are you prepared to come and modify this piece of legislation to say no, we're no longer going to be handing out this free money for you because you didn't do what you said you were going to do?
Like I told you when you asked me that question in my office, I would absolutely be interested in doing it. I would have to talk with SLDC to see, if we're able to do it. You're also talking about the tax abatement, taking that away if they retaliate against workers. The tax abatement right now is not, it is about the building and fixing that up. You can check my record. I'll always stand with workers. I will always make sure workers have the right to unionize if they please to unionize. Also, we have to let workers decide that. We can't make decisions based on workers and they're not there. But like I told you in my office, my commitment stays the same. If that's something we can do, if they retaliate, I absolutely will have a conversation with SLDC and see if that's in our purview to do so.
Well, thank you for that. And I would encourage my colleagues to remember that we did just incentivize this building just a couple decades ago. the alderman and I had this discussion, and he said, "Well, what about your ward? Look back at the incentives you've done." And I told him to go back and look for incentives that I've done. I've been in opposition to many of these projects, including in my own ward. I think we always have to be careful when we're handing developers money when we're taking it from children. So with that, I would encourage folks to vote against this project. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Alderman from the 14th, you are recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Again, I appreciate all my colleagues for having a robust conversation with me about this project. I know we have been incentivizing the downtown and Central West End area for a while. Kind of getting off topic, I got a bill that will be incentivizing North St. Louis with me and Alderwoman Keys working on to also make sure we help people that need it the most. But again, I do think this would be a huge benefit, not just to the city, but to the people that currently that live in this building that is asking for help. I think I've said a lot already as it is in committee, as it's been heard 3 times with my colleagues on the phone, through emails. And with that, Madam President, I close.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th, that we respect Board Bill number 129. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
No.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Balmer. Nine aye votes, 3 no votes, and 2 voted present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 14th to perfect Board Bill number 129. Report of engrossment.
Board Bill 175, 183, 147, and 190.
Third reading and final passage of Board Bills consent.
Board Bill 175, 183, 147, and 190.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the third reading and final passage of Board Bills on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move to adopt the
Alderwoman, you need to stand. Sorry.
Oh, goodness. I was standing
Back
early.
in the chambers.
Thought I could sit down. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the third reading. So you threw me off now.
It's okay. Third reading and final passage of Board Bills on the consent calendar.
Third reading, final passage of Board Bills consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we third read and finally pass the Board Bills on the consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Thank you. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. 14 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th to third read and finally pass the aforementioned bills. Third reading and final passage of board bills.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 18B. Report if finally passed and signed by the president.
Board Bill 175, 183, 147, and 190.
All other business being suspended, the president shall in open session affix her signature hereto and that these may become law. First reading of resolutions in reference to committee.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 20. Second reading of resolutions, committee reports and adoption.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 21. Courtesy resolutions. Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the courtesy resolution calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we adopt the courtesy resolutions consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 5th, that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Miscellaneous and unfinished business.
We have none.
We can dispense with line item 23, announcements.
Monday, January the 29th, Transportation and Commerce will have a committee hearing in the Kennedy Room at 2 p.m. Tuesday, January the 30th, HUS will have a committee hearing in the Kennedy Room at 11 a.m. Wednesday, January the 31st, Budget and Public Employees will have a committee hearing in the Kennedy Room at 9:30 a.m. Public Infrastructure will have a meeting in the Kennedy Room at 3:30 p.m. And Friday, February the 2nd, full board meeting in the chambers at 10 a.m. That's the extent of the announcement.
Any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I do want to announce on Tuesday's HUD's meeting, in addition to the bills that will be heard, we will also have a report from the Treasurer's Office about the Guaranteed Basic Income Program, how it's going, the implementation, and how it's been developed. So it'll be a good way to catch up on that program. And also on Monday, the 29th, we will have our 10th Ward one-on-one meeting that we have the last Monday of the month. This is not a town hall. This is not an organized, structured meeting the way people feel that it should be sometimes, but this has been an amazing space that we hold in the 10th Ward every month for us to connect from the 8 amazing neighborhoods, like office hours in the community on the ground. And so along with myself and first responders and our neighborhood improvement specialists, we also have other resources that'll be present, and it'll be at 100 Black men in the 10th Ward at 6:30 on Monday evening. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I want to announce that Public Safety will be having a meeting at 10:30 a.m. on Thursday, February 1st. We'll be discussing the jails, and we may be hearing some other things as well. I'll keep the clerk apprised there. And then just want to give a shout out to our water division. We've had a lot of water main breaks lately, which is normal for the winter in an aging city. But it's been brutally cold out, and I've been able to see these men and women out in literally single-digit and negative temperatures, getting wet and digging holes. And I just want them to know that we all appreciate and thank you.
Any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I want to remind the 7th Ward that our second set of office hours, the evening set, will be January 30th. at Crafted from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And then I also really want to thank, all those in our community who have been coming together to make sure that we're able to have pop-up shelters when we've experienced freezing cold. We were able to operate one within the 7th Ward, and it was fully volunteer-led. And so I just want to thank folks for coming together to make sure we have those resources available for our unhoused community.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements?
I have. I don't think.
Alderwoman from the 11th, or from the 13th, sorry.
That's okay. You threw my thought off. I wanted to announce SLPS literacy project that'll kick off tomorrow at the main library on Olive. And that'll be for the reading for the children for SLPS, and they're trying to improve literacy for our children. And then we have a young man that's within our community that's doing a safe place for men, and it'll be library from 1 to 4, and they call it Straight Talk. And they're open to all men to come in to voice their opinions on where they are in their lives. And it's been going pretty good. The numbers have really built up. We have about 15 men that are coming in continuously to talk about issues with them and their lives to help them better themselves. And so tomorrow also from 10 to 12, we started Coffee Talk. And it'll be from 10 to 12 at 6085 West Florissant. And I sent letters out to residents about 6 blocks, and they're going to kind of talk about issues in their community and how we can put a plan together to improve the conditions that they're living in. Thank you very much.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? With that, I would like to ask, Clerk Kennedy's already here. Alderwoman from the 7th.
Can we do it now? I wanted to ask that we do a moment of silence for Alderman Aldridge's mom who passed away.
If we could please take a moment of silence. Thank you, Alderwoman. With that, Alderman or Clerk Kennedy's here. I would like to ask Jay and Yusuf to please come up on the dais as well for one quick second. I want to make sure that we thank Clerk Kennedy for his vision to bring the chambers into couldn't even get the full sentence out to thank him on his vision for bringing the chambers into the 21st century. With his leadership, the board can now work in a more contemporary way that also creates opportunities to enhance the transparency of our work. I also want to make sure that I thank my Director of Operations, Christine Ingracia, Chief of Staff, Jay Nelson, and Secretary of Communications, Yusuf Danshire, for their role in transforming this space. Like in any construction project, this one had its fair share of hurdles, especially when you're dealing with a building old and that had not been updated in quite some time. So thank you for your dedication for handling this project very thoughtfully. I also want to make sure that we recognize the STL TV team. And our associate clerks. We could give them a round of applause too. All of them for their guidance and partnership in making these upgrades possible. I hope that moving forward, we preserve and improve the board spaces steadily rather than accumulating critical improvement projects over decades. We have a responsibility to residents to make sure that our branch of government functions efficiently and responsibly to the future lawmakers and to leave these spaces better to them than we found them when we got them. So thank you for everybody for your hard work and dedication. It's great to finally be back in the chambers. Took a little bit longer than we anticipated, but we're here and really excited that we're able to have these hybrid meetings now and not look like we're in the 1980s when people watch STLT. So Alderman from the 5th.
Thank you, Madam President. While you're thanking Clerk Kennedy, remind everyone that they had to have him here because he actually had the blueprints when they built the building.
You keep going.
Since he was the only one here when this building was built.
Try that one more time, Alderman.
And the other thing, I have a green light, but it's not working. Hello. No, since, see, it must be my voice. There. Apparently, Clerk Kennedy has some. Hello. It doesn't matter. I can talk loud enough. He's the oldest guy in the room. That's why he is.
It's probably best that the viewers at home could not hear that. Any further discussion, Alderman from the 3rd?
Okay. Hello. It must be the. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello. All right. I think it's working. The joke for those at home was that thank heavens Clerk Kennedy was here because he still has the blueprints to the building. So he drew them. I also just want to take a moment to extend my condolences to the aldermen from the 14th publicly. Having lost my mom, I know how difficult that can be, and I hope that you take the time necessary to console your soul and heal yourself. I know that this job takes as much as we give to it, so I hope that you take the time to do that as well. And just want to recognize your hard work, as your mom was transitioning, and my heartfelt condolences to you and your family. I do also want to make sure that this momentous occasion was the work of so many people in President Green's office and the staff here at the Board of Aldermen. Having served down here for the last 15 years, it is such a momentous occasion for those of us that have had to serve in these chambers to see technology. It is remarkable, and it's taken many months just to get through the physical transformation, but there's been so much work beyond that. And I do want to also commend President Green for your leadership and standing up for this legislative body. That's something that has been sorely missed at the Board of ENA. So I certainly want to recognize your efforts in getting us here as well. It means a lot to those of us that care deeply about the legislative process of the city and representing our constituents, that we finally have some of this infrastructure and support, from both a technological perspective and a staffing perspective, to be able to do our jobs to serve the city, to serve the citizens of this city better. And so thank you for your efforts on that, as well as all of the staff. For folks at home, you may not realize our staff at the Board of Aldermen are moving chairs, moving desks, dealing with all the other personalities involved down here at the Board of Aldermen. It's a lot of work, and so thank you to all of the staff that made this possible today. And lastly, on a kind of more official note, I do have a Transportation and Commerce Committee meeting scheduled for Monday at 2 p.m., so look forward to having you all there. We're taking up all of the board bills related to the Port Authority and the airport. And then also we now have some appointments that'll be before the committee as well. So look forward to seeing everyone then. And then I know I circulated around during the meeting to just give folks a heads up The Convention and Visitors Commission, which is underneath the purview of the Transportation and Commerce Committee, is wanting to extend an invitation for a tour of the updated facilities and the progress that they've made with construction. And so keep an eye out for confirmation of a date, and hopefully you all will be able to make the time to go over there and see some of those updates. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Alderman for the 14th.
Turn it on. This mic thing. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody at the board. This has been a tough month. As some of you guys know, my mother had a major stroke at the beginning of the month and was hoping she'll pull through. But, you know, God is the best of planners. We think we know, but he always knows, and he is he knows better than we do. The love from everybody at the board has been very helpful. My mom's going away service will be February the 7th at 11. If people, I will make sure the information sent out. But I know Alderman from the 3rd Ward has been trying to take on all my pieces of legislation, like don't show up, I got you. The love from the Alderman from the 10th, the 7th, the 11th, the whole board of Aldermen. I greatly appreciate it. Being here helps me kind of take my mind off of things and not just sit in the house and cry all day. I am grieving, but just being around a lot of love is helpful. I'm thankful to have an extended family. I know we don't always agree, but the love is definitely felt, and I don't have much words to say. I do appreciate everybody. And I also know, as I'm going through a hard time, if we could have one more moment of silence. I know the Alderwoman from the 7th Ward just last night had a family member that was murdered. So she's been in my corner during this process. I want to make sure I do the same thing. So if we could take a moment of silence for her family member that was murdered, we'd greatly appreciate it.
Good. Please bow our heads for a moment of silence.
Thank you.
And to the Alderman from the 14th, I just want to say from all of us here at the Board of Aldermen, your mom, an amazing person. So many of us at this board have had the opportunity to get to know her through various forms of community engagement over the years. And we see so much of her in you. And we know that she is looking down and so happy and so proud of you and all of your accomplishments and your commitment to community. And so know that her legacy lives on through you, and that all of us in this chambers are mourning with you, are here to support you. And please let us know what you need. Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we excuse the Alderwoman from the 1st for necessary absence.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 5th, that we excuse the Alderperson from the 1st for necessary absence. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we adjourn until Friday, February the 2nd, 2024, in the Board of Aldermen.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we adjourn until Friday, February 2nd, 2024, in the Board of Aldermen chambers. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.